Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cheat Code Jiu-Jitsu. Jeff here again. We get to work some of my favorite stuff today. I am a big, huge fan of butterfly guard. Butterfly guard is like custom made for a guy like me. I have really short legs, but they're also, they have a lot of flexibility and dexterity in them. So I can kind of throw butterfly hooks in from a lot of different positions. I use it as a sweeping guard. It works very, very well to set up leg locks if you're into the leg lock game, which I definitely am. But I like half guard because it's kind of the very first thing that I started working when I began jiu-jitsu. I've probably been working lockdown half guard longer than anything else. I always want to get to my underhooks if I possibly can, but the underhooks don't always happen. Sometimes you get guys like this jerk over here that I roll with for 5 minutes and can't get an underhook to save my life. So if I can't get an underhook on him, where am I going to go? My most common transition is to butterfly guard, but there's some things that we need to do to make sure that we have good control over him to get to butterfly guard, and also some little cheat codes to clean up your transition to get your butterfly hook in place and make sure that you actually get that in place while maintaining control of his leg so that we can sit up and start getting our butterfly guard going. So stay tuned. I'm going to show this from a couple different angles from here and then turn around as well, because there's stuff going on both sides. But there's a couple of things that are important to note here. One is hip placement. One of the things about going double underhooks and pulling Chad down on top of me is it gets our hips really close together, and that makes it easier for me in this position to kind of maneuver his hips around and turn him. When I'm trying to transition to butterfly guard, if we are hip to hip, there's not going to be any room in front of his leg for me to slide a butterfly hook in. So I have got to maintain control over his hips and maintain some distance. This far arm on the opposite side of where I have the leg trapped is going to go into his hip. And I'm just putting a solid frame there. Eddie Bravo calls that the pimp arm, whatever you want to call it, but it works to keep his hips away from mine. So that's what I'm doing on this far side. This butterfly hook, I'm not going to worry about my inside trapped leg for now. We're going to get to what we're going to do with that in a minute. The transition to a butterfly hook here is important, and this is a place where I see people mess up a lot. The most common way I see people screw this up is they're in their lockdown, they break the lockdown, and then they just try to pull their knee straight back to their chest and slide the foot in. I can get that sometimes because I just have a lot of flexibility in my legs. Most people though, especially if you don't have very flexible legs, that's going to be a hard pull to make that work. There's just not enough room. So we don't pull this straight back. So instead, the transition is when I'm ready to throw a butterfly hook in, preferably I do not want to be flat on my back. I'm going to show you in a little bit the transition we can do if you're flat on your back, but ideally I want to be turned at least a little bit on my side to make this easier. My knee is actually going to point into him a little bit, and then I'm running a circular arc with my foot to insert the butterfly hook, rather than pulling this back and then trying to slide it in. It works a lot better to lock my knee up against him, take my foot from his leg, run it in a circle, and then bring it around. That's a weird movement, and it's fundamental. It's very important that you drill that part of this out over and over and over again to understand how to lock those butterfly hooks in. And that's the easiest way that I know of to do it, to get there successfully. Where we're ultimately going to want to end up with this is a position called the cocoon, which is the beginning of butterfly guard. I've got over-under control, so overhook on this side, underhook on the far side, and I've got 2 butterfly hooks. I'm going to be sitting up. So everything we're going to be discussing today is going to be about how to get out of lockdown and into single butterfly control first. And there's a few different ways that we can do that. And then that is going to transition into a sit up to get to the cocoon right here, so we can really get our butterfly guard working. So my biggest concern when Chad comes down on me is if I break my lockdown, I now no longer have this outside foot in here to get my lockdown back easily. So as soon as I make this transition to butterfly guard, my lockdown is in jeopardy. Generally that's okay because I'm trading off to a really good style of guard. But my concern when this leg comes out, if you can see, I don't have anything controlling Chad's leg right now. So for him, this is an easy back step to get his leg out. Let's go ahead and back step out. Now I've just lost guard entirely. It's all good. So my concern that I have with my inside leg, it now becomes the job of my inside leg to exert control over Chad's trapped leg to make sure that that transition is not available to him. So we get in here and are over under control. I've got my far side hand is pimp arming to push his hips away from me to kind of give myself that room. The first transition that we're going to do is called the stomp. This inside foot that is currently underneath of Chad's ankle is going to slide out, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this foot and I'm looking for his ankle, the Achilles, somewhere right around here, and I'm just going to push it down. Best case scenario for me is I get around to the far side and then kind of push it down a little bit. It gets sort of quasi heel hook pressure on him. Nobody's going to tap from that, but it's a really good way of isolating that leg and keeping it from moving. So Chad back step now. All right. I'm not going to hold that forever. He'll eventually figure his way out of that, but I don't need very long. I just need long enough to get this butterfly hook in place. So lockdown, break, stomp, knee comes out, and then pivot around, and I get my butterfly hook in place. With my pimp arm, that's the stomp. Lockdown, extract, stomp, pivot, and now I've got a butterfly hook in place with control over his leg. The second transition is called the super stomp. Lockdown, break. Now I'm going to do two things at once. We already know this one, to get the butterfly hook in place. Number two is this leg, the trapped leg, is going to come up and pinch on the back of Chad's hamstring. Pretty much accomplishes the same thing, except instead of immobilizing his foot, I'm just clamping right here. That has to be done quickly because right here, there's a window for him to step out. If he takes that step out, I've lost everything. So it's super fast. Done slow, it looks like this. But it clamps down on him pretty well. And all the time, pimp arm to push the hips away. So our third transition is the elevator. I told you that this is the one that we do where I actually have my back flat on the mat. I want to be out on my side because this is an easier pivot to get around to a butterfly hook. But a good guy like Chad is not going to make it easy for me to get up on my side, and sometimes I just can't. So in order to make the elevator work, doing all the same things, I'm pimp arming on this side, Chad's got the underhook, and I just cannot get in there, and I can't get myself up flat off my back. Okay? So now, this time, rather than stomping or super stomping, instead this trapped foot inside is just going to stay underneath of Chad's ankle. So what I'm going to do now is this foot's going to come out. I'm not going to pivot it around, and I don't want to just totally release. I just break and I pull it out just a little bit. As soon as this foot sees daylight, I'm going to turn this knee straight up, and then I'm just going to elevate. And then this foot falls into a butterfly hook underneath. Okay? It is vitally important that you do this transition with your knee up. If you leave your knee flared out to the side, when I hook this and try to elevate, it's going to put a very significant amount of pressure on the small ligaments on the side of my knee. It's a good recipe for a knee injury. That's why I don't do this one when I'm hipped out to the side. Stay flat on your back, lock down, over under, pimp arm, knee comes straight up, hook, elevate, and then slide the butterfly hook in underneath it. That's the elevator transition. So let's change our angle here. So you can see this from the other side. Chad's got his over-unders. I'm not getting my jaws of life or whip down or anything else working. So I take my underhook that I have on this side. I'm going to pimp arm. I'm going to control the distance between our hips. Transition number 1, stomp. Transition number 2, super stomp. Transition number 3, if I'm flat, this knee comes up. As soon as I see daylight with this foot, elevate, and then throw the butterfly hook in. So those are the 3 different transitions that I have to get to a butterfly hook general. Next thing we need to talk about is getting up. Because a butterfly hook down here, whether I'm flat on my back or even just barely on my side, it's not normally super effective. There's some transitions that you can do, but ideally to get my butterfly guard working, I want to sit up. The mistake that I see people make is they get down in here and then they just try to turn this into an ab crunch and sit up. If I am a lot bigger than Chad and I've got him pushed way, way down, maybe. Anybody who's halfway decent, you're never going to be able to just simply sit up. You've got to use this arm, your pimp arm, to push, and you have to use this butterfly hook. This butterfly hook in our first 2 positions are stomp and our super stomp. It's not going to elevate straight up. It's actually going to elevate backwards at a 45-degree angle and then flat back. The concept that I'm looking for here is I want Chad's hips lifted up just a little bit so he's no longer posted on the mat, and then I need to move him backwards. And as his hips are moving backwards away from me, I can use that transition to sit up with the momentum. Okay, so the way it works is here, we'll look at it from a stomp. So I go slow and methodical, put the stomp in place. Once the stomp is there, I can pull this out, swing around. I'm doing my pimp arm. Now, at the same time, push with my arm, elevate with this butterfly, and then push them all straight back. And I should be able to sit straight up, drag my right leg through, and this will turn into butterfly guard. Then I get here. I've already got, from my pimp arm, my underhook in place. So I've got underhook on this side. Chad was already in here on his own underhook, so that becomes my overhook. And so now I'm in over-under position for the cocoon, and now I can get going with my butterfly guard. What to do from here, that's not the subject of this video. We can cover that at a later date. So, back down here, half guard, lockdown, overhook. I can't get in, not able to do it, but I can pimp arm and I can create distance. I can either go slow or I can go super stomp and go fast. Same transition, push back, lift, push back, and then slide my other hook through and sit up. If you're having difficulty sitting up, it's almost always because you're doing it as an ab crunch. Get your legs involved in this, elevate and push. Think more about pushing his hips away than doing a sit up. This changes just a little bit when I'm doing the elevator, because now I'm actually going to have Chad's hips elevated way up in the air from the one butterfly hook that I'm putting in place. So he's got me down flat, not able to get myself out to the side. So I grab and I hook under here. This comes out just a little bit, elevate, and then throw it in underneath. I've still got my pimp arm, but his hips are a little closer to me now. So I'm going to continue pushing him up, and that will create space over here for me to slide my other butterfly hook through. And then I can push him back, and now I get into my cocoon position to begin the butterfly. So it's here, elevate up, slide through, and then I just kind of drop his hips down on top of my hooks, and then push back to sit up. So one more time. Over under, lockdown, pimp arm. I'm flat on my back, so I turn this knee up, elevate, butterfly, elevate, butterfly, kick back, and sit up into the cocoon. That transition right there from lockdown into butterfly guard is one that you have to know, because there are guys who are just going to completely shut your lockdown game down. None of those sweeps are going to work. You can't pass, you can't advance, you can't do anything with them, but they might be really vulnerable to butterfly sweeps. And if you can throw that transition in there and make your butterfly guard as dangerous as your lockdown game, it just improves both of them. And if you watched our last video, you saw the attack chains. That transition to butterfly guard is always there as a part of the chain if you ever happen to lose your underhook for whatever reason. So if I get my double unders, I'm going maybe old school electric chair, whatever it is, and at some point during the chain, Chad slips back and is able to re-pummel and take that underhook, that far side underhook away from me that I need for all those attacks to work. I always have the ability either to go back to whip down or jaws of life or whatever, or if I'm really confident in my butterfly guard game, I just hit one of those transitions, switch up to butterfly guard, and now I've just thrown another wrinkle in for him to have to deal with. So makes me better overall. Great transition, love butterfly guard, very important to throw it into your game. Make sure if you like the video, you get something out of this, you hit that like button, really helps us out a lot. Comment down below if you got any comments on that or any other transitions that you'd like to work, and also make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We still got a lot more stuff from this lockdown position coming, so turn on the notifications. You'll get notified every time we upload a new video. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.